Earlier this season, I made a video about why the Milwaukee Bucks should still be considered the title favorites in the NBA. And while I do still have this team as the favorites to make it out of the Eastern Conference, painfully as a Sixers fan, I have to say, my opinion has changed, and I am now predicting a Suns-Bucks rematch in the finals, with the Phoenix Suns getting their revenge and finally winning an NBA championship. And let me be clear, I do not view Phoenix as some kind of runaway title favorite by any means. I think they have a slim edge over the Bucks right now, and the Bucks have a slim edge over whoever you want to say is third, whether it be the Warriors, the Sixers, the Heat, even Brooklyn if you're one of those delusional Brooklyn fans, whoever you think is the third best team, right? There is a very small gap because the league is in an incredible state of parity right now, and I absolutely love it. But let's talk about Phoenix, shall we? This team has been unbelievable this season. In my opinion, Monty Williams should win Coach of the Year, and while I don't think there's anyone on the team who is really contending for those other awards, I don't think it is disrespectful to the true MVP or Defensive Player of the Year frontrunners to name guys like Devin Booker or Mikal Bridges in those conversations, because they've been absolutely phenomenal. The Phoenix Suns don't win on the back of star power alone, however. They have been an incredible overall team, and they really are something to watch. They play beautiful basketball. If you haven't seen many Phoenix games this season, I wish I'd seen more myself. Go and check them out. They play the right way. Like, it sounds corny, but it's true. They play basketball the right way. They're very team-oriented, they make the right decisions, they play smart on both ends of the floor, and as a result, Phoenix currently has the best record in the league by a wide margin, with a 60-14 record, as well as the #1 overall net rating at plus 8.4. Their offense is third, and their defense is third. You know how many teams in NBA history are top 3 in both offense and defense? I don't. I really don't. I tried to look it up, actually, and I couldn't find an exact answer, but it's not many of them. I can tell you that. There's not a whole lot of them out there. Phoenix has also done this while dealing with significant injury woes. Nobody's been out for the entire season for them. None of their, key players, that is. But Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, and Jay Crowder, aka 4 of their 5 starting players, have all missed at least 11 games so far, with DeAndre Ayton missing as many as 21. Now, caveat here, alright? The entire league has dealt with some serious injury woes this season. So this accomplishment by Phoenix to be as good as they are despite injuries is not as impressive as it would be in a normal year, because the NBA has really just been decimated by injuries throughout the season. There are a whole lot of teams who've missed a whole lot of time with their best players. Nevertheless, 60 wins and a historic net rating are incredible accomplishments for anyone, especially when you are dealing with injuries like the Phoenix Suns have. So let's start talking about these players, shall we? Devin Booker is, in my opinion, the slight best player on the team. Chris Paul is really hard to compare to other players because his impact has always been more on the court than it has been in the box score. But with Devin Booker's incredible efficiency, his good playmaking, the fact that his defense has improved greatly from a few years ago, and his general overall scoring, I am going to say that he is the best player on the Phoenix Suns team and a borderline top 10 player. He might just barely be cracking it depending on where you put some guys who aren't having great seasons, but at the very least, he and Chris Paul are, for my money, both top 15 players in the NBA, and you could make an argument for both of them being as high as 8th and 9th. They really are that good, despite not quite being MVP caliber. Booker this season is having, for my money, the best season of his career, hands down, really only competed with by how good he was last year. He's currently averaging 26, 5, and 5 on 46, 38, 87 shooting splits, and those are by no means empty stats. Meanwhile, like I said, his defense is much improved from how it used to be. I remember just a few seasons ago, Devin Booker was a nightmare defensively for his own team. This dude could not stop anybody, he looked lazy, he was just an all-around bad defender, but these days, he's gotten to the point where I would legitimately call him a positive on the defensive end. He's not some, all-defense team caliber guy. People comparing him to Kobe Bryant need to stop for numerous reasons, but the top one in my mind is the defense. He's not close to Kobe's level. But going from someone who is a clear negative to a slight positive is a huge development. And Devin Booker really is just such a good freaking NBA player. Meanwhile, his co-star Chris Paul has been a little bit down efficiency-wise this season from some previous years, but he is still managing to give you 15 points, 11 assists, and 5 rebounds with 2 steals on an incredible 49% shooting from the floor and 85% from the free throw line. His three-pointers have not been falling at all. He only takes 3 of them a game and he only makes 33%, but he is still someone who you can't just leave wide open on the three-point line because teams do know that Chris Paul is a somewhat capable three-point shooter just because of how good he was for so long earlier in his career. Meanwhile, the mid-range game, absolutely incredible. Kevin Durant and DeMar DeRozan have been, deservingly, getting all of the props for their mid-range shooting this season, but Chris Paul is the third best mid-range shooter in the NBA behind them. He is money from the area around the free throw line. Somebody made a video on it not long ago. I think it might have been Thinking Basketball about how good Chris Paul is from the mid-range. I don't know, but the dude is just straight fire once he gets to his spots on the floor, and the fact that he hasn't been able to shoot threes has not led to any kind of issues for the Suns this season. Meanwhile, his defense is still good. It's definitely not the all-defense level it was just a couple seasons ago, or especially in his prime, but Paul is a clear positive on the defensive end, despite his size and despite the fact that he has gotten a little bit slower with his old age. And the fact that Chris Paul just got to rest for that thumb injury may be a blessing in disguise for Phoenix, because when you look at someone who tends to get worn down over the season, tends to get these nagging injuries in the playoffs, giving Chris Paul a free 2 weeks of rest for a minor thumb injury right before the postseason honestly might have been the best thing that could have happened for Phoenix. It really might have. This could keep him healthy throughout the playoffs, because last season you saw he was fighting through that injury against the Bucks and he did not play that well. Now, a healthy Chris Paul next to an improved overall team, that sounds like a recipe for a championship to me. The rest of the roster is stacked as hell too. The Phoenix Suns have both talent and depth. Mikal Bridges is one of the best defenders in the NBA. He should probably make an all-defense first team. As much as I would like his spot to go to Matisse Thybulle, it deserves to go to Bridges. He has been absolutely incredible while being a phenomenal offensive player. 14 points, 53, 38, 83 shooting splits. He's got a little bit of a playmaking ability. He's developed his off-the-dribble game a little bit more this season, which we really saw while Chris Paul was out a few weeks ago. Dude is just an incredible player, and yes, I am still 100% bitter that he did not make it to the 76ers like he was supposed to. DeAndre Ayton is having a great season as well. He's still a little bit underused overall in Phoenix's offense, but they just don't need him to do more than he does, and once in a while, like we saw of just a week ago, he had a 35-point game while Chris Paul was out. When he needs to step up, he has the ability to. He's averaging 17 points and 10 rebounds this season, and he's shooting 64% from the field. And even when he isn't getting those easy lobs or easy shots at the rim from Paul and Booker, which consists of most of his shot diet, he is able to bully smaller guys around the basket, and he has a little bit of a mid-range game, not a perfect one by any means, but he can occasionally hit those shots. Rounding out the starting five is Jay Crowder. Just a role player at this point. He doesn't really do anything amazing, but he is still a decent defender. He can definitely hit the open three, and he's just a solid fit on this team that has a lot of other talent, and they need guys to do the dirty work. Jay Crowder is someone who does the dirty work. coming off the bench, you've got a whole bunch of good players. You can argue that this roster is 13 players deep, and that is without Dario Saric, who may return from his injury at the start of April. They have Cameron Johnson and Cameron Payne, both coming off and both giving you legitimately good minutes. These two guys, Cameron Johnson especially, has been lights out from three. He's shooting 45% from three on 6 attempts a game, 48% from the field overall, and giving you 13 points a game. Cameron Payne is a good player. He's not someone who shoots a whole bunch of threes, but he does get to the rim decently. He's a very good playmaker, averaging 5 assists, and he gives you 11 points a game himself. Torrey Craig has been, well, he really hasn't played much this season, but when he does play, he's, an alright role player. He's alright defensively. Not really a big factor. We're going to move on from him. Landry Shamet is having a massive resurgence. It makes me happy to see, because I liked Shamet when he was on the Sixers. He played bad in the Clippers after that, but on the Suns, he's been looking good. Once again, a dude who is a good three-point shooting role player. 38% from three, 5 attempts a game, 8 points. Now, his defense still sucks balls, but he's out there to play 10 minutes a game and hit a couple threes. They have enough good defensive players on this team to make up for his weaknesses. Aaron Holiday has played phenomenal in the games he has played for Phoenix this season. His 54% from three is obviously not sustainable, but he is a decent three-point shooter. He's decent getting to the rim, and once again, you've got a solid player backing up at the guard position. He's a solid defensive player. He's a little bit switchable despite not being that tall. JaVale McGee, Frank Kaminsky, and Bismack Biyombo. Frank Kaminsky's actually been hurt for a while. I haven't seen him play in a long time, but JaVale McGee and Bismack Biyombo have been way better than anyone on this planet thought they were going to be this season. JaVale especially has been one of the best backup centers in the NBA, which is so freaking weird. He's only playing 15 minutes a game, but he's giving you 9 points, 7 rebounds, and a block in those minutes on 64% shooting. Bismack Biyombo is also a decent defender. He's shooting 60% from the field. These dudes are just... they fit in the system so well. The Suns just run such a great system for these kind of role-playing big men, and it's why I don't fight for the fact that DeAndre Ayton should be doing more, because the way they have him playing just leads to wins. They maximize the other players around their centers by having them in this specific way, and it leads to incredibly efficient play from said centers. Even if DeAndre Ayton very much could be putting up all-star numbers somewhere else, the results speak for themselves. You've got a 16-14 team. Sorry, I had to catch my breath there. This team is incredible. This team is absolutely incredible. They have a lot of long switchable defenders. They have a lot of three-point shooting. They have very good all-around playmaking. They are an unselfish team. They have multiple tough shot hitters, especially Devin Booker, who is someone who can absolutely take over any game at any time. They really don't have any weaknesses. They really don't. The only weakness that I could potentially see with the Phoenix Suns in a playoff matchup is their size, because they don't have a true stopper for either Embiid or Giannis if they are to meet one of those two players in the finals, and that is why I can't say that I think this team is a runaway title favorite. If they meet the Bucks absolutely could beat them again. If they meet the Sixers, if the Sixers are on fire, a combination of Harden and Embiid has the talent to beat anyone else in the NBA. But those are the only two teams right now who I can really see pushing Phoenix to a tough series, or really see beating Phoenix in a tough series. I gotta be honest, unless the Warriors come back 100%, I don't see anyone else who can truly make this team struggle in the playoffs. I don't think the Jazz are there yet. The Nuggets are hurt. The Clippers are hurt. Out the East, the Brooklyn Nets, I think, would get torn apart by Phoenix. I think they're way too smart of a team to lose to them. The Heat, I just don't think have the shooting. I don't think that they have the star power to compete with Phoenix. I really don't see another team who can give them a run for their money. I think it is between the Sixers and the Bucks to take down the Suns at the moment, and my money's got to be on Phoenix in either of those matchups, because they have just been playing near perfect basketball this entire season. Not putting any money on it, because I don't think it's any kind of runaway thing. Who knows what's going to happen? I cannot wait to see this postseason. There is so much parity and balance right now. I freaking love it. But if you put a gun to my head and you tell me to choose a team today who is going to win the championship, I have to go with the Phoenix Suns.